Hey, history enthusiasts. In today's video, we'll put in the boots of a young German soldier stationed on the cliffs of Omaha Beach, June 6, 1944. You probably won't survive today minus at least not yourself. No, you understand yourself now, because after this, you will use the flame to measure the number of grenades in your pocket. Before you fall asleep, enjoy and subscribe to your heart's content minus, but only if you are interested in the inside story of World War II. Please tell me in the comments which city's program you are listening to. How far these slow and dusty stories can go always surprises me. Now relax. Slow down your thinking. We have entered another era minus without headlines. Those peaceful moments have shaped a generation. You're only 20 years old, but you're already a veteran. At least that's what Fel W.I. Bell calls you when the new kids get frozen during training. You and I have been here for several months, watching the straight from the cliff with the 352nd Infantry Division, praying that Americans will be as soft as their chocolate. In most cases, you only need to clean the MG40 to curse for moisture, that you ignore those landmines and bunkers. The scenery here is beautiful grey waves, sandy beaches, and then cliffs. But this morning was different. It's something. You wake up in front of the bed, and your body records a sound in front of your brain minus, just like the distant thunder wrapped in cotton. This is the ocean, but even angrier. Then you smell minus diesel, gunpowder, or something metallic. You quickly sat up and hit your head against the low concrete ceiling of the bunker. Your comrade Franz is already standing by that broken window, his eyes wide open. "Hello," he murmured. Join him. The English Channel is no longer empty. The seawater is wriggling. At first you see dots, then shapes, and then ships minus too many to cover the horizon, destroyers, cruisers, and even those strange floating docks you've heard of. The Allied powers brought the world's largest parking lot right at our doorstep. Your stomach is descending. The invasion has not yet come, go Canada. You'll think of it. You fasten your belt, shake hands, put on your coat and pick up your helmet. Adrenaline was buzzing in the bunker. Around you, everyone else is awake, shouting for police, pulling ammunition boxes and opening them with panicked fingers. NG's nest smells like oil and last night's cigarettes. No one knows what to do. Someone tells you that Galei is the real goal. Field Marshal von Lundstedt was convinced of this. Rommel was the same, although recently he had a bad premonition of pacing like a man. Not long ago, he even said, "The first 24 hours will determine everything." This was true for both the Entente powers and Germany. This will be the longest day. At that time, I didn't know what he meant. Now you know. Franz loaded MG with bullets, muttering his sister's birthday, and most importantly, he nodded, pretending to care. Your ears are ringing. Someone outside shouted in broken French, pointing at the horizon. The Hauptmann said, "Don't fire until the enemy reaches the beach. It's too far. The shells will run out and the provisions will be exhausted. Bring them closer. Trap them." You climb up the ladder to the top of the position. The wind is beating against your face. The weather in June is colder than you imagined. Do you still remember the reverse landing? Below were scattered equipment minus Czech hedgehogs with landmine stakes on them. You will laugh when they are installed. Now they look ridiculously small. The sea keeps surging in. Behind you, there is a shrill cry, eine sharp and unnatural. A few miles after your first shell landed, white foam gushed out. The second one is closer. The third, one hit. The nearby shelter turned the world orange. You will instinctively avoid it. Dust and debris from stones are hitting your helmet. Somewhere down there, a Fel W.I. Bell was cursing. He is still alive. Now the fierce artillery fire from the Navy began. Stop watching. You just feel it minus, just like the earth minus trembling. They said the Texas and Arkansas were right there. You believed them. Your position trembled like a crate being kicked. Somewhere, the horizon cracked like a rocket as the spaceship launched its payload. It looks very beautiful from here. For example, the New Year. Then, there is the landing craft. The deep and square thing swayed forward like a stubborn beetle. LCVPS. What do you think they are? You have never thought about learning what these letters represent. You watch the slopes descend one after another. A man will splash into the water. Most whine. There's a slight decline. You have to be too high up to see clearly. All of this seems unreal. Then Hauptmann gave the order. Your NG-40 can sing. It kicks around in your hand like a living thing. The belt looks like a blur. Franz calls the target. You obey. There is no time to think. You're so angry. You reload. Shoot again. The smoke rises rapidly, spicy and greasy, stinging your eyes. You can see the shapes collapse, but they won't stop. More and more shipyards. The beach is getting more and more crowded. Some historians debate whether the crowd that morning was organized chaos, or just chaos minus, but from your perspective, it was an evil avalanche. There's no trick. There is no smart strategy. It's just the primal power. An American tank rumbled out of the landing craft, fell into a hole and vanished. You almost laughed. Then the other one swam to the shore. Then too, they headed straight for the sandbar on the position. Your laughter has vanished. You no longer pay attention to shells. You no longer notice the screens. There are only three things left in your world: your NG-42, Franz's voice, and the cold metal of the trench walls. But even so, it won't last long. The nearby gunners signaled that they had run out of bullets. The supply team failed. A group of engineers are putting wires near the seawall. You tried to signal for a further anti-minus aircraft gun to land, but it's very quiet now. Maybe it was damaged. Franz moved closer. They passed through the hedge hub. You nod. Your legs don't feel anything anymore. I felt Bell rushed over, whistling as if in a parade. Don't open fire and bluff before they arrive, he shouted, as if it would make any difference. You can only watch the mortar team take their positions and disperse when the shells land 2 meters above the ground. A scream came from your left. An unnamed Muller, who was just 18 years old, lost control and fled to an open area. You want to bring him back. You don't move. You didn't even blink an eye. You are no longer a soldier. You are a gear on a dying clock. The Americans have reached half of the beach. Bluffing isn't animal. You already know. But you should hold your finger on the trigger as if it were the only thing that could help you grasp the present moment. Perhaps so. Your ears still echo with the roar of the last artillery fire. Even though the gunshots have died down, your body will not cease to shrink. The gust of wind blew, and it felt like a cannonball. Every bird is chirping suspiciously. You hid away unconsciously, then stood up again muttering a curse. False alarm. Only the seam owns on the shore. You are squatting behind the concrete machine gun den now, waiting for the next order that hasn't come yet. Your hand smells like oil and has burnt powder. Franz fell silent. The part where his knuckles grasped the blade was white on the parapet. He hasn't blinked for a long time. You don't speak. What would you say? But whether at the end of the world, it's early morning now. But the sky has already begun to turn the color of light tea. The clouds are low and dirty. Somewhere behind them, Spitfire and Lightning Fiker jets drew a path in the mist. Occasionally, you catch a glimpse of the silver wings twinkling like knives in the sunlight. You're hiding again. Nothing happened. You realize that you have been breathing through your mouth all along, and your chin is biting tightly and hurting very much. This is the part that no one has told you: the silence between bombings. This is not peaceful. This is even worse. Because this doesn't mean safety. It means that something else is coming. Louder. Closer. Shift your focus and try not to think about how many minutes it has been since the first shell. It can also be 10. It can also be 2 hours. Today, time goes as you please. Another soldier minus guess what his name is JLT Sandik Dren crawled beside you, grinning as if he had just won a bet. It was a false alarm, he said. They went further west. Perhaps all of this is just to divert attention. You want to believe him. You really did it. You even forced a smile. Then the ground rumbled again and both of you fell to the ground. This is not a pastime. The field phone crackled for half a word, due to static electricity and noise. The corporal fiddled with the receiver and cursed softly. Some people say that Karen Ann, the 91st Infantry Division, is marching north. None of these will be helpful to you. You're not in Kulantan. You are trapped in this tragic hole, and your boots are full of sand. You glanced at the sea again. It looks empty. It might be a trick of light. Thick waves roll in a mist. You almost convinced yourself that the landing craft was gone minus maybe. It was a 1- off offensive and they had already retreated. Then you discover a flash. Then another one. Dozens of people. They are still outside. There will be more. Franz patted you on the shoulder and handed you a kettle. It was warm and tasted like metal, but you still drank it. Your throat is sore from shouting. You nodded to express your gratitude. He didn't take his eyes off the water. His eyes were dull. Do you think they will carry out another bombing before they come? He asked calmly. You don't answer. What happened last night is already very vague. Remember the dinner, minus bread, canned sausages and a cigarette you got from the chef? Do you remember a fake air raid at midnight? Everyone was in a panic, and sirens were wailing, just to make it lose everything. You just laughed it off at that time. Now you may wonder if this is a war minus up. Someone mentioned around to her, and that there were sporadic messages from paratroopers coming from behind. The anti-aircraft gun crew said they saw some movement near Saint-Mut, Ariel-Église. This is inland. It's too far. Don't worry. At least that's what Obergefreiter said. But then the radar station in Duffel began to report strange signals. Airplanes, many of them, but not in formation. It's not the mode of a bomber, the operator said. It didn't make sense. Ghost? Someone joked. You're too tired to care at all. Now it's bothering you. Historians are still debating whether the German Supreme Command was truly derelict in its duties, or merely derelict and at a loss. It depends on whom you ask. The German Navy vowed to launch an attack in Calais. Some German Air Force officers believed in the Normandy campaign, but no one wanted to refute the bloated archives on Hitler's desk. So you are here, standing on the wrong side of military logic. Your thoughts returned to the reading on the right ominous ghost. You want to know how much of it is true now. The corporal finally went to the battlefield to work on the phone. The telephone line crackled for a moment, and cleared up, and only one voice was heard. Wait for the position. The artillery regrouped. Reinforcement troops. Over. There is no name. There are no details. Just fragments. You wait for more things, but the static return is louder than before. The corporal shrugged his shoulders. Better than nothing, he said. A shadow passes by on your right. It's Baker. That one is from LT, so next Seld Orf's young sniper is adjusting his scope. He stood beside you in silence, his eyes calm and focused. You have always envied him for this. Becker could shade his beard clean as the bunker around him collapsed. He fastened the latch in place, placed the barrel of the gun properly, and lay on the concrete ground, breathing slowly. There are still 3 ships, he whispered, all heading towards the sandbar. You nod. Franz wiped his palms on his trousers. You reload the NG-42 bullets. The heat shield of the machine gun is already hot. This is not very good. The cooling bucket system can only last this long. You should replace them after the continuous crossfire, but the spare ones are still downstairs. Make a note in your mind. Then just forget about it. There's no time left. A sharp whistle came from the other end of the line minus to rapid explosions. This is the signal. Raise your eyes above the parapet. The sea came back to life again. The LVPS were crowded with soldiers and were swarming towards the coast. You might count to 15 and then forget. They weaved through smoke screens and tangled water barriers just as they had done before. Perhaps so. Sicily, Salerno. The practice is back in the UK again. It doesn't matter. Here they come. Franz's breathing quickened. That's it, he whispered. You don't answer. You just need to reach out and pull the trigger. NG-42 bursts out again. Its high minus pitch draw like a chainsaw cutting through damp pine wood. Along the coastline, then the water line, and then the space between spaceships. The numbers decline, disappear and rise again. You think you saw someone waving a flag, but it has already vanished into the smoke. Americans won't stop. They have been coming all the time, stumbling and dragging, getting hurt, dragging each other. There is a kind of terror in their persistence. Just like ants on wood, they are not afraid even if there is a fire. An auto shell exploded behind you, throwing debris onto your back. Your ears are ringing again. You tasted the flavor of the soil. Then the sand moves. It's not true, just at your head. Because the beach doesn't look like a defensive point now. It looks like a funnel, and hundreds of Americans flocked here. Becker fired 3 shots, remaining calm forever. Then hide and refill. You automatically cover him. Franz is loading the ammunition and you belt. It's as if you were a team, that this team is going to lose. Suddenly, he is singing, or recite. It's hard to say. Through the smoke and gunshots. What were the Americans shouting? Short syllable. A rhythm. They inspire each other. You can't understand the lyrics, but the tone makes you shudder. You thought of the radar ghost again. They are not ghosts. They are the beginning. Now, the sea has opened its mouth and decided to swallow the entire Normandy bunker. You won't see them land. You heard it. At first, there was a gentle thumping sound, as if someone was throwing bags of grain across the river horizon minus, not considered something important. You think they are very distant from artillery, but then you notice something floating in the sky. Dozens of strange, circular shapes were floating downward on the slowly dancing strings. Some are just point minus to minus point clouds. There are still some that you can see the airy clearly dark outlines, drooping legs and bulging backpacks. Franz leaned forward. Are those ours? He asked. You all squint your eyes. Absolutely not. There are too many. It's too fast. It's also random. They came down from the inland, behind your position. Not from there. That means your stomach has fallen off again, but this time in a different way. It's not fear, chaos. That kind of thing that makes you doubt everything others tell you. What happened before has passed. How does this make sense? You've seen paratroopers before minus, at least in training videos. Your officials called their elites. But they were rash. That kind of person would jump off the plane just to provoke it. When they are theories, they are easily ridiculed. No more. The horizon is everywhere. Hundreds of people, perhaps tens of thousands. The first batch of people crashed heavily to the ground minus some crashed into the open fields, and some were in the hedges. They few remain still. The parachute is hanging from the tree. A terrible landing. A poor man was being dragged across the pasture, his legs kicking around like a wound minus up toy. Another one hit the roof of the barn, but most of them appeared very soon. They are scattered throughout the purpose. They know what they are doing. You tried to track them with a scope, but they vanished too quickly minus disappearing into the woods, behind low stone walls, in fences and streams. Some people carry rifles. Some people carry strange bags and wires. You see a bicycle with a folding function. You blinked. Is this what you imagined? Historians are still debating the degree of coordination of the US airborne operation that night. Some people say that they are a completely chaotic unit, scattered for miles off course, soldiers lost in the darkness, and the radio malfunctioned. Others, however, believe that the chaos itself has become an advantage, making Germany's defense unable to predict anything. Anyway, one thing is certain: they are here. They are not where you want them to be. A shout came from the Groot Falls KRM Jaeger. This is a problem, not a report. You shook your head. No, these are not German parachute troops. The silhouettes don't match. In addition, since the Battle of Crete, Germany has not carried out airdrops in the West for several years. The Supreme Command announced that they were spending too much. Another voice shouted, Americans. This time is eternal. Men believe this. You believe it. Suddenly, the bunker vanished and felt as safe as it was 5 minutes ago. Because now you no longer face a front. You are already surrounded. You step back, instinctively blocking your return. The concrete wall offers some comfort, but it is psychological comfort. If they come from the inland, you are trapped. Your position is for resisting sea attacks, not a double minus-sided trap. You are a castle without a suspension bridge. Franz whispered, what if they catch up with us with knives? You were almost laughing. This is a kind of cinematic fear, so childish, but you also believe in some aspects. Imagine them passing through the mist like shadows, splitting through throats, cutting tables, and completely bypassing the cover. You shake the images in your mind. I watched banned films in the US for too long, but you still leaned your back against the wall, just in case. An athlete panted as he reached the finish line from the next position. His cover was in the dust and his helmet was crooked. Airdrop troops, he confirmed. Report from Sainte Marie du Mont. And follow. They are fighting everywhere. You asked who wrote the report. He shrugged his shoulders. The radio keeps chattering. Perhaps it's the 91st Regiment. Then he ran away again, as if spreading panic was part of his order. More shapes fell from the sky. It's like watching leaves being pulled upside down into the clouds and then drifting down, causing chaos. You want to know how many of them have dropped. How many planes did you take in total? Try to imagine the airports in the UK minus as far as the eye can see. Rows of C-47 Dakota transport planes roaring past in the night, and American soldiers chewing gum and slapping their hands behind each other before boarding. Someone has to organize all of this. Some people sent tens of thousands of people into the sky at the same time, making them fly across the English Channel in the darkness and land in the dark, so that they were close enough to have an impact. You can imagine Eisenhower watching the first planes disappear on the horizon. Did he fall asleep afterwards? You didn't. The night before was just a joke. Half of the alarm, half card games. You and Franz once argued about whether to keep the last piece of chocolate or eat it and invade. You ate it. It doesn't matter now. You stand at the top of the cliff as a tracker, with the fire line crossing the sky, reddened green threads sewing the darkness together. Some planes crashed. You can see that at least one of them suddenly caught fire before disappearing behind the hedge. But in most cases, they run away. The anti-aircraft guns were busy with the Navy's bombing and had no time to hit the transport ships. Think about Rommel again. A few days ago he went to Germany minus because of his wife's birthday. This fact seems absurd now. Imagine missing the Normandy landing day for a piece of cake. But then again, no one expected it to be today. Even the generals didn't know. If the rumors were true, Hitler wouldn't have either. The Führer was asleep and no one dared to wake him up. Classic. Suddenly, a burst of gunfire rang out behind you. You wriggled, your heart pounding, but that was far away, perhaps 1 kilometer inland. Then there was another explosion, even closer this time. Never disperse, controlled, disciplined. Someone is engaged in battle with paratroopers. Or give it a try. Americans act quickly. They know the terrain better than you might think. They have maps and perhaps photos as well. It might even be a local to guide. The resistance from France is greater than most people admit. Even officers would occasionally hint when a convoy was ambushed or a telephone line was mysteriously cut off. Resistance. You glance down at the beach once again. It's still chaotic. More and more men are pouring in. But this is only part of it. You realize that the entire area is being squeezed. The SEAL eyes ahead, parachuted behind. There are also civilians who may or may not be on your side. Some scholars question whether the Germans never truly took root in Normandy. You are beginning to understand why. Some bunkers, some concrete nests. Maze minus like wrenches and minefields minus nothing if the enemy wants to land wherever they want. A strange idea suddenly struck me. The beach was no longer the main battlefield. The battle has skipped it. You are in the 3-dimensional model of the Battle Museum, while the real war moves inland. Try to refocus your attention. You squinted and looked at the tree line behind your position. Exercise. A flash of light, so low that it didn't seem like sunlight. Then, there was nothing. You blinked. There's still nothing. Is it a reflection? A range? Is it your imagination? Franz saw it too. He said nothing. He just tightened the strap on his helmet. You all know what will happen next. You reach for the rifle. This time, it's not MG. Just your carabiner 98K. It feels lighter than usual. Your hands are shaking again. A gunshot came from somewhere behind the mountain. Then another one. It's getting closer. You hold the rifle tightly. There are no longer only Americans on the beach. They come from the sky. Now, they have come to see you. At 5:44. You can feel it in your teeth before you hear it. The air has changed. It's just like the pressure being sucked out of the world. Then, the first shell landed on the sea. Not near you. Not even on the beach. One, you think this is a test. Navy greeting card. It exploded in a stream of seawater as high as a house. The second one is closer. The third shot hit the second gun positions, several hundred meters below the cliff. The first thing you see is flashes of light, followed by plumes of steel formed by broken soil. You can't see what the crew members have to do, and you don't want to either. The sound came later, a profound, shaking impact, as if folding your innards inward. Then hell opened up. This is not before the cannon you imagined. That's another matter. Things got worse. The Allied fleet, minus cruisers, destroyers, battleships minus finally began its real show. You were sitting in the front row. The Texas, Arkansas, Quincy, Emmons minus these names you never cared about or thought were important minus. All now call your precise coordinates their problem. The sky is filled with sounds. That and just noise is merely a kind of power. It's just like someone has torn open a gap in the air. The rumbling thunder shook the earth in the uneven waves. This is not just an explosion minus, it's carefully planned. Imagine a boring American naval officer coordinating firepower like a commando. Now, he said, holding a baton in his hand, we are going to destroy District to -9. You were squatting in the bunker. Franz was already there, sideways like a cat, covering his helmet with both hands. Think about joining him. But your job is MG42, and MG42 can't work by itself. So you stand up straight, lean against the wall with difficulty, and watch the rays of sunlight streaming in. Every time a shell lands, your view is torn apart. The concrete is trembling. A fine rain of dust is falling from the ceiling, stinging your eyes. You tasted the flavor of lime and sweat. Behind you is a box of ammunition, or someone else's tableware. A jingling sound is too loud. Human instinct tells you to avoid such noise, but there's nowhere to run. Really, you're buried right where you are. What's the worst thing? This is systematic. You start to pay attention to the pattern. The shells landed on the cliff in a grid pattern with almost mathematical precision. Look eastward first, then go a little further west. So close. Your whisper said to yourself now. Now. Each syllable has an impact. You've seen explosions before. In Sevastopol, in Cassino, in the news clips of London. But you have never had such a feeling. It's not coordinated like this. It's not that close. You looked at your watch. 5 minutes have passed. There are only 5. A voice was shouting from outside minus. Someone was running to cover in the middle. Cover your ears. Hide. It seems as if you need a reminder. Another shell hit minus, this time closer minus, and part of the ceiling will crack. A concrete block the size of a loaf of bread fell at Franz's feet. He didn't flinch. Just pull his helmet down. Somewhere up there, a communication station was set up. You hear the cracking sound of the radio equipment being blown up. Sparks are dancing in the air. The wire machine gun den that connected you to your neighbor has disappeared. You know, because you've tried 3 times. There's nothing. You were out for a while minus a stupid decision. But you need air. Or you need evidence that the world beyond this echo chamber still exists. The wind almost blew you down. The smell of smoke, salt and burning rubber wafted towards me. You despise instinct. Then you see water. It's still there. It's not over yet. Also climb boats. The landing craft jolted like an iron worm. Larger ships floated further away, and the cannons flickered with each strike. For a moment, you were hypnotized. Then another shell lands on your right, and then you dive back. Inside, Becker returned to the scope. His face was pale, but his hands were steady. They're softening us, he muttered. They knew we would break down. You want to argue, say some brave words. But he is right. Bunkers are not for this kind of war. Rommel wanted more guns, more cement and more people. But he had wire, wooden stakes and a group of teenagers holding grenades. A few months ago, Rommel visited this department. You remember it very clearly. He asked sharp questions. He struck the wall with his walking stick. Pointing at the sea, he said, "We must stop them at the draft line. Not here. It's not inland. You want to know if anyone is listening." Now High replied to him. "Another aerial strike. This is different. Higher pitch." You only later learned that this was an naval rocket launched from a modified LC team eines landing craft, with tanks converted into floating batteries. That kind can launch dozens of rockets at a time. That feeling that can make your soul break free from your ribs. The noise is unbearable, but worse than the noise was the pause that followed. When it goes be quiet minus, completely quiet minus for 2 more seconds. At this point, you will realize that something is coming. You look down at the cliff again. The first landing craft were near the obstacle. People even jumped out before reaching the dry sand. The water was up to their waists. Some dropped immediately. The others moved forward. The peasant tried to drag his fallen companion and then gave up. You can't fire yet. The officer's order was clear: wait for them to assemble. Make them feel safe. Make them think they have succeeded. A strange sense of calm envelops you, the kind before the storm comes. Then, starting from the far right, a German artilleryman opened the door. Its bullet landed exactly on a row of incoming aircraft, hit directly. The flames shot straight into the clouds. Cheers burst out from your shelter. Becker actually smiled. This is the only victory you can see today. Encouraged, the MG nest on your left fired. Then there is the other one on the right. You waited for a few more seconds minus time, and then Franz nodded, and you fired the MG-42 again. The belt crackled. The bucket is smoking. The recoil has scratched your shoulder, but none of these matter, because Americans keep pouring in. The shells will still land around you. A close landing is enough to dry your breath. Dust clouds suffocate the air. Your kettle is half eaten, but it feels like cotton in your mouth. You thought of the bakery in your hometown. Real bread, cold milk. Nothing smells like gunpowder. You reach out for another ammunition strap. It's clogged. You curse, turn it off and fix the signal. It's gone viral. The beach is very crowded now. You can't track. You fire at moving objects, shadows, and anything standing upright. The MG barrel glows. Franz gently patted your arm. Change the bucket. What you did. Hand practice. Automatic movement. The eyes have no focus. You've forgotten your name. You have forgotten the time. You have forgotten that there is a world beyond the cliff. Only fire and metal. Along with the ever-growing trend of boots. Keep moving forward, no matter how many boots fall. Most importantly, the gun is still speaking. You don't remember that the MG-42 was overheated. It just stopped shooting. Just a second ago, you were pulling the trigger, your eyes squinting in smoke and sweat. And then there was nothing. There was a disgusting click, followed by the pungent smell of burning oil. You loosened the barrel with trembling fingers, but it emitted a red light. Franz was already looking for a spare one, still cursing. His voice was shrill now, as if panic had pushed it forward. You glanced at the edge. The Americans are getting closer and closer to their goal. A group of people have reached the wall line, daring to hide behind the steel beach obstacle you once joked about. Now they are working as a team minus, from hedgehog jumps to tent traps, lying prone, and then sprinting again. One of them threw something out minus, a can minus, shaped blurry object minus, and a second later, smoke emerged from 20 meters away from your article, white and thick. It poured down the hillside like the mist spewed out by an angry machine. You can't see the movement. The slope vanished into grey. You blink hard. Your vision is blurry. It's either the cigarettes or your own eyes that have given you away. The barrel of the machine gun was in position with a rumble. You slammed the top cover shut and suddenly pulled the feeding belt into the position. Franz muttered something minus, perhaps a prayer, perhaps a curse minus. Both of you are ready for the next wave, but it's hard to shoot when you can't see. You shot briefly into the smoke, hoping to slow them down. The gun is shaking in your hand. Brass casings tumbled down the basement wall with a clattering sound. Now it has the smell of pure metal and fire. They still came. Somewhere in the haze a flamethrower roared back to life. You can't see. You heard it. A sound like a dragon clearing its throat, followed by a huge wave igniting the orange smoke from within. The flame curls upwards. Someone screamed. Not from your nest. One of the others. The screams were soon cut off. Your hand is twitching. The flame horses you've seen are mainly pre-minus employment training videos. It has never been so close. It has never been so real. You flatten yourself against the wall through the narrow slit, breathing very shallowly. Franz wouldn't even look outside anymore. You tell yourself that this is only part of the attack. The Americans are just testing the waters. Their true main force is still on the water surface. But this lie doesn't hold water. You know what this is. This is a driving force. A genuine one. They brought everything. Ecker emerged out of nowhere, holding a rifle in his hand and his face covered in cigarette ash. Bunker no. 14 is gone, he said simply. Hit directly. No one escaped. You nod. He slid to your side and pressed his back against the same wall. His rifle touched the floor. They are climbing the cliff close to a draw. The engine ear made a hole through the wire, the cover of a cigarette. I saw it with my own eyes. Fear will us. He nodded. This should be impossible. The paths in Ville are steep and narrow, full of traps and crossfire. They should be poured and cut down. This is the plan. You smile. The small, bitter voice has nowhere to go. Franz loaded MG with bullets again, but he went even further by going through the motions more than with intentions. The line is about to collapse. The entire beach area is disintegrating, for instance. A cheap sweater. No one will come as ordered. No flares. There was no reinforcement. Historians are still debating whether Omaha's defense failed due to poor coordination, or simply because the Allied forces were too powerful. Some people say that the German command underestimated the saturation tactics minus combining naval firepower, smoke, armor, engineers, and an absolute number of men. Others say that Rommel's vision of defending on the beach was never fully realized. His obstacles and his people were incomplete and scattered in weak areas. Don't care about theories anymore. They just want to survive. Another explosion shook the shelter. Something else groans minus wood or metal. Or both. Franz held MG even tighter. You think he's whispering to it. Don't interrupt others in the middle. When we think the end of the world is coming, we all say some strange things. Becker looked out again. They are by the seawall, he said. You won't look. You already know what he will describe. Some of them have bangle or torpedoes, minus long tubes of explosives and minefields, used to blow up power lines. He saw one earlier near the east. It turned the entire area of the barbed wire into confessed raids, evaporating the people standing behind. The sound it made wasn't even an explosion. With a snap, it was as if the earth had cracked open. Vac? Franz asked. You smiled again. Not because it's fun. Because this is too absurd. Where? You said. Going to church. This is an old joke. A small church is located 500 meters inland. Half minus buried underground beside hedges and gravel. Apart from a rusty clock and a statue of a saint, it was empty. Michael had lost both wings. Once Becker joked that this would be their last place to celebrate Mass if their allies came. This doesn't sound like a joke. Someone ran past the opening German in uniform, with a rifle slung over their shoulder. He doesn't even glance at you. It's just a blurry image moving inland. You can't blame him. The urge to escape is unstoppable. You glanced at your belt. For grenades. To a smoking, to a shattering. Not enough. Command? Franz asked again. Still not. You finally made a decision. Cover me. You climb to the back door of the bunker, then lift the radio covered with oilcloth. The crank is bent. Anyway, you still twisted it. Static. And there was a fainting sound that was too chaotic to be recognized. Then, there was nothing. You put down the receiver and then crawl back. They don't answer the phone, you said. Ecker shrugged his shoulders. I don't think everyone should answer. It is harder than any shell. You are considering retreating. There is a path leading through the woods on the cliff. When the narrow goats were raining, only half of the paths and trench lines were ad. You can take one, give up your position, retreat and reassemble, that with him to restructure. Your troops are scattered. No one in the company has seen the commander since dawn. The last known position of the Q leader was flattened 30 minutes ago. It will reunite with the ghost. So you stay. So is Franz. And Baker. Even though this is crazy, although the machine gun has only one barrel left and your ears have been ringing for an hour, look down from the edge again. Through the smoke, you will see something surreal minus. An American soldier squatting under a pile of wires, holding a map in his hand. He is making marks with a pencil, as calm as a person drawing a tree. Raise your rifle. You hesitate. He moved out of sight. Once gone, it will never return. Franz gave you a push. They are on the flanks. I know. Then we minus, I know. A pause. You hear a buzzing sound above your head. No plane. Drones do not exist yet. It's just another illusion. Your brain is busy with explanations that don't belong to this century. The beach is now a blur. Everything was veiled by smoke and flames. But you know what the following is sports. The determination. An enemy who refuses turns back. The Allied forces are stationed along your coastline. They won't leave. Look at your hands. Dirty, trembling. You won't consider yourself a hero. You don't feel anything, just tired. And fear. And it's incredibly young. Franz tilted his head back. Eka lit a cigarette, coughed once, and handed the cigarette to the people around him. Take it. Inhale. Listen. Somewhere outside, crunching footsteps could be heard on the gravel. Now you reload it by intuition. Remove the tape. Slam in. Pull the bolt hard. Check the feed. Your fingers do what your brain does with almost no registration. Every movement was accompanied by a whisper of doubt. Does this still matter? Outside the slit, the smoke gradually thinned, allowing just a glimpse of white and grey between the clouds. The trend has not changed. If there is any difference, it is that it has become bolder. The landing craft was still unloading, one after another. Do you want to know how many they are? Several hundred? Thousands upon thousands? It feels like an endless stretch, as if the entire world is touching the shore. Tilt the gun barrel a little more towards the slope to scan the movement. To the right of the hedgehog, there were 3 figures crouching very low. One of them, another one ran away. You pull the trigger. There's nothing. Franz patted you on the shoulder. This is a squeeze. You tore open the top, gritted your teeth, and pulled the belt hard to loosen it. Then reopened the cover. A used cartridge case was clamped beside it. You go and catch it. Take it out with the tip of your knife and try again. This time it was launched. NG-40 roared through the fog, and a brief explosion sound pierced through the gap. A graph is descending. The others vanished. Perhaps you hit one. Perhaps they just moved away. The smoke swallowed everything up. Franz is shivering beside you. His helmet moved backward, exposing his forehead. You reach out and pull it down, just as a mother corrects her child's hat. He didn't respond. Keep watching. Did you see that tank? He whispered. You blinked your eyes, puzzled. Then you can see it, on the far left, right behind the steel beach fortifications. Sherman half-minus hidden behind concrete blocks. The turret has turned inland. They must clear a path. Either they knocked it down. Engineers have been working on minor stop, pushing forward bit by bit in the flames and smoke. Franz vomited. They brought armor. That's it. They don't wait for anyone. That's not the case. Another one follows closely behind. Then another one. They formed a crooked line and advanced slowly but steadily. Their footprints stirred up the sand and crushed metal just like crushed flour. The distant armored forces attempted to hit one, but the rocket deviated from its orbit. The wind is too strong. A bad angle. A tank responded with an explosion, shattering the nearest wall and raising a cloud of dust. It suddenly occurred to you that bluffing is no longer a high ground. The enemy can raise it to the ground from below. When they can bring down the cliff one shell at a time, you should look for the flank team that Baker had warned about. Look, they are moving slowly along the slope, using crushed stones as cover. Smart. Slow, be careful. It seems that they have received specialized training. There might be. You took another look at MG. There is still one belt left. Perhaps 2. Franz, you said. We held this line. Will we run away? We can't have both at the same time. He didn't reply. Becker came back, holding a rifle that was his and some things wrapped in cloth. You know that's his shoulder. Bleeding. There is a clean red line on his sleeve. Cot, he muttered. I'm fine. Someone was lost near the crater. We how many? 3. For the rest are unaccounted for. Command? He said with a smile. There's no such thing. You hand him a dressing. He wrapped it tightly and gritted his teeth. You won't ask how bad it is exactly. Outside, the first tank opened fire again. This click is close. The bunker is shaking. A nettle box in the corner overturned, spilling out rations and a sunken enamel cup. We should step back, Becker said timidly. Franz looks at you. You look at the gun, then return to the smoke. Somewhere down there was a whistle hitting. It's not yours. A signal. A moment later, there was even more noise. A new wave of infantry, hundreds maybe, running fast on the beach and scattering in the chaos. Their boots stepped on the sand, then the stones, and then the stones, and then the soil. Just then, you suddenly realize the beach refuses you to end. You've been pouring bullets into it for several hours, but it still folds, still send people into the grinding machine. You and Franz have started firing again. Broken. Reload. Broken. Your shoulder hurts. Your wrist hurts very much. Becker shot slowly and calmly with his rifle, counting each shot as if it were old. His aiming was very accurate. He threw the runner to the ground. The others scattered. But this is not enough. The Americans are in the barbed wire. At first there was a bang, and then another bang. Smoke bomb. This time it's thrown upwards, not downwards. They were covered in a thick, stinging mist in the trenches. You can hear the sound of boots lapping the ground. Shout. English. A brief command. Left. Suppress. Get moving. Your throat is tight. Franz pulled down the last belt ammunition jar. You all know what this means. Run again. Then comes the fallback option. A figure faintly emerged from the smoke. Too close. You throw the barrel at it and then the fire. A number has dropped. But now there are shouts everywhere. Gunshots. Scream. A grenade was jingling on a stone somewhere. You dive. The explosion was dull and close. Just like lightning trapped in your skull. Dust fell like raindrops. Your ears are ringing again. You blinked. Franz is coughing beside you. To be alive. Becker was still moving, dragging his body towards the back door. Go ahead, he shouted. Gone. You pick up the MG. Hang it on your back and half-minus lift Franz. He is limping. Perhaps shrapnel. Perhaps something has been distorted. It doesn't matter. You force him to move forward. The back door is very tight, with only one concrete cabin door slightly wider than your shoulder. You forge ahead, but it turns out to be open. A narrow ditch leads inland, meandering among shrubs and rocks. Your duck is dragging Franz, with Becker following behind you. The sound gradually faded away. The gun's nest has now vanished minus, at least in your mind. Excessive. Claim. You won't look back. The path branches off. One road leads to the canyon and the other to the church. Church. Franz murmured. You nod. Acker muttered in agreement. You move. The ground beneath my feet was very soft, with torn craters and footprints. Every step is a question mark. Is this tenable? Is there a sniper hidden in that tree? Will the next uprising bring machine gun fire or silence? Somewhere in the north, you can hear the sound of tanks stepping on the gravel. Is yours still theirs? You won't stop to look for answers. The chapel emerged from the church. The tree looked like a stone weathered by ghosts, half a roof, and a broken cross. This is not a sanctuary. This is a shelter. You hide in. Becker collapsed onto a pillar, having difficulty breathing. Franz collapsed on the steps of the altar. You squat by the door, etching your rifle ready. No one spoke. 1 minute, perhaps 2 minutes, only the wind and the chirping of birds. There is also the echo of the distant wall. Then Franz whispered, "They're going to take it away, aren't they?" You don't answer. He already knows the answer. You sat on the floor of the church, trying to catch your breath. But the air was filled with thick dust and the old fragrance, as if that building still remembered the peaceful scent of the past. The statue of St. Michael is reclining, with its eyes chiseled out due to weather or war minus you're not sure which one. A ray of morning light shone in through the broken window, painting the bench golden. It would be so beautiful if you didn't have a gun on your knee. Becker moaned quietly. He was putting his hand on his shoulder, but the bandage was already soaked through now. Franz sat against the wall, his head tilted back, his mouth slightly open, and his eyes closed, falling asleep. He was quiet, just like what soldiers do when they have nothing to say. The MG-42 was placed on his lap, and the barrel was still covered with black smoke. He has never let go. No one spoke. There's nothing useful to say. But you heard the sound of battle, even here, low and distant, just like the rumbling of a storm in another valley. Machine guns, mortars, low clashing sounds, the sound of shells burrowing into the soil. Its rhythm will remind you of a funeral procession, or perhaps it's just a bad heartbeat, one that you can't synchronize. Outside the door, a winding gravel path led down to the former school building. The roof was gone, but the sign still read a call. It's so close. You're going to the village now. Too close. This place was not supposed to be a front-line position, but you came, guarding the church as if you were very important. The whistle blew away the air in the distance. Then there was a gunshot. Then there was silence again. You glanced at your crumpled, sweaty map, which was almost incomprehensible. According to it, the front line should still be on the beach below. But paper cannot explain smoking or willpower. Americans have moved faster and better than expected. But now the boundaries are blurred. Franz finally opened his eyes. It should be mine, he said. Yes, you replied. He nodded slowly. Then, why didn't they stop them? You don't answer. Because you remember there was a storm last week. Tides may have changed the magnetic field. Or it could be due to the engineer's lateness. Perhaps they haven't finished downloading yet. Perhaps Americans have discovered a map. Who knows? You stopped pretending to understand these things a long time ago. Some scholars are still debating the validity of the Atlantic Wall. It looks impressive. The map, the promotional video minus European fortress. But even Rommel complained. Too little, too late. The gap is too great. There are too few resources. There is also no way to insert it. When everything depends on guessing, there will be loopholes. You hear the sound of metal outside. No gunshots. It's just metal to metal, just like a tool dropped onto concrete. Raise your rifle. Becker knelt down, holding his knee in the freedom to throw the ball sideways. He didn't say a word. He just nodded slightly, indicating that he had heard it too. Franz remained motionless. His legs are not normal. You walk sideways to the door, moving slowly and carefully. It can just be seen. A French farmer. He is probably about 50 years old. Thin, hunched over, pushing a bicycle with one hand and milking milk with the other. One can clumsily balance on the other. He stops when he sees you. Blink. Not running. You aim the rifle at his chest. He didn't flinch. He raised one hand minus not high. Not slow. Just waved it lazily. Then he continued walking forward. The old school buildings. Walk along this road. At a corner. Put down the gun. Why didn't you stop him? Becker asked. You shrugged your shoulders. He might be a rebel, he added. Then we're already dead, you said. This is not bluffing. It's just logic. If he's a rebel, he has already exposed your position. If he isn't, pointing a gun at a civilian will only make you feel guilty. You choose the quiet path. Not the noble one. Just the quiet one. You sat down again. The chapel now feels smaller. 10 minutes have passed. Perhaps even more. Then a rustling sound came from behind the altar. You all froze. Franz began to speak. But you made a sharp gesture. Silence. Another sound is softer, like breathing. Then came the creaking of the wooden floor. You raised the rifle beside the altar. A boy. I'm about 8 or 9 years old. Tailed up like a hedgehog under the altar, its eyes wide open, full of dirt. His hand was tightly grasping a piece of bread as if it were a treasure. You exhale through your teeth. Get out, you said in French. He didn't move. Say it again, be gentle. The censor is applicable to D. A COA. All right. Is still nothing. Becker also joined. He's just a child. Franz laughed with a tired gasp. He hides better than us. You glanced at the boy again. His eyes will never leave you. Firm, not even just be vigilant. Just like a strayed orc decides whether your hand is kind or cruel. Slowly kneel down and gesture for him to go. He slipped out of the side door like a shadow. Once gone, it will never return. Becker stared at the open space beneath the altar. I thought we were ghosts. You almost laughed. But outside the wind direction changed minus you heard the sound of boots. Many pairs. Gravel. Franz became stiff. You climbed to the door and peeked around the picture frame. American helmets. 3 people scattered, each holding a rifle. Move slowly and clear buildings. Not running. It's not shouting. This is no longer a charge on the beach. This is cleaning. Move forward in an orderly manner. And they are very good at it. You hit back. Here they come, you whispered. Where? Becker asked. Close. There are still 5 seconds left. No one panicked. It's simply impressive that when your heart is pounding, your body remains still, as if it wants to run forward even without you. Hold your rifle tightly. Franz raised the MG pistol and aimed it at the entrance. Acker fastened the safety lock of the pistol. The door creaked. You hold your breath. A figure walked in minus in an American uniform, with a low rifle, scanning. You can open fire. You don't. Not yet. Another figure followed closely behind, covering the flanks. The third person stood at the back, looking at the path. They are young. Like you. Mud minus splattered. Apply camouflage paint to the face. They don't look like killers. But you don't know either. For a moment, no one moved. Then Becca shouted. You don't remember this word. It's just the volume. The first American turned to Franz and heard the sound, flying into a rage. Engired once minus twice minus and then got stuck again. The Americans have fallen. A person is hiding behind the door frame. The second one rolled into the aisle, and then the fire went blind. The third door opened from the outside, and the bullet landed with a bang on the stone above your head. You fight back. 1, 2, 3 gunshots. Hacker also shot and then fell down. He dragged Franz back. Americans give orders. Left, push. Clear right. You threw a smoke bomb. It hissed and flooded the room, which was white. You use it to retreat, slipping through the side door into the woods. The others followed, stumbling undodging, saying nothing. You ran away. You won't look back. The chapel is behind. The same goes for other things. You are no longer a soldier defending a beach. You are different now. You finally turned into a ghost. The war is still ongoing, whether you are there or not. The forest is not safe, just silence. You walk fast minus to fast for your tired legs and blistered feet. But your body no longer asks for permission. It's just obedience. The trees blurred as they walked through the green and brown stripes. Every branch was a potential threat, and every shadow was a possible warrior. And Jack Lunsely hung on your shoulder and bumped into your ribs. Ecker staggered behind him, his face pale and his head drenched in sweat. Franz tried to keep up, but he would trip every dozen or so steps. No one spoke, not even saying this way. This road is not a road. It's not a real forest. The depressions on the ground might be trenches, drainage system ditches, or deer tracks. You follow it because it is far from the sea, far from the church, and far from the cocky trend. 10 minutes later, or perhaps 15 minutes later, you will reach a thick bush that is thick enough for one to hide in. You would under a branch and collapsed on your knees. Becca slides to your side, leaning against a tree. Franz got stuck in the mud and snorted, not getting up. Your breath, a deep, trembling mouth. There is damp bark and the smell of fear in the forest. In the distance, the sound of boots gradually faded away. Now you listen to the sound of the engine, the sound of the dog, and the rhythm of that terrifying, unquestionable organized search. But all you hear are the chirping of birds. Somehow, they came back. Sing as if nothing had happened. And G is no longer useful. The barrel is twisted and the bullets are gone. You unbutton it and gently place it on the grass like a tired friend, leaving it there. You will feel relaxed. Not brave, just light. Franz moaned. I think something is broken. You squat beside him. His boots were soaked through, not just using mud. You carefully untangle it. His ankle was swollen and he was always flipping through the skin of his sunglasses, but he shouldn't have worn. It might be a sprain. It could be even worse. It doesn't matter. He won't go far. Becker threw you a bandage from his pocket. Package it. Tight. What you did. Franz shrank back for a moment, but made no complaint. Then all of you sit down. Only temporary. It's just a long way to turn panic into something more controllable. To be exact, it's not peaceful. Just numbness. Finally, Becker spoke up. We were cut off. You nodded. There's no radio. There was no running. No command. You nodded again. Shall we surrender? You stare at him. You're not ready to answer this question. We're surrounded, he continued. They will advance rapidly inland. Perhaps they have already done so. If we stay in the woods, they will find us. If we move, they will find us. If we shoot, they will shoot back too. They have armor. Air cover. Map you want to argue, but he is not at fault. However, the word surrender still touches something deep in your heart. It feels too final. It's too heavy. It's like admitting that everything you've done so far is meaningless. Ball. Becker said more gently. We'll try to reach the next line. Franz gritted his teeth and laughed. What? Becker didn't reply. You took out the map again. At this point, it is more like a joke than a tool. Tear fade away. The edges are peeling off between your fingers. You walk along the path from the church towards the interior from Megany. That was the place where the rear troops of the 352nd Regiment made their last report. If they weren't dispersed, like you, perhaps there would still be a way out. Perhaps. We can give from MiG-NY a try, you said. Becker nodded. We have to move tonight. You fell silent again. Around you, the trees are creaking. The sunlight streamed in intermittent waves. It was so hot that it was like a battlefield. You heard a rustling sound as the frozen rifle was raised. But that was just a deer, staring at me and watching you run away with black, incomprehensible eyes. Put down your rifle. Franz broke the silence. Do you still remember the barracks of Le Mans? Are there any painted windows? You blinked. He happened to mention that place. The windows are painted with fake paint on the solid walls, making the building look less like a military warehouse and more like a school. The illusion looks perfect from a distance. You remember staring at it for several weeks before realizing it. An interesting trick. Now everyone who's not sleeping under it has forgotten. You nod. Yes, there is a bakery nearby. Real bread. Still dreaming of bread? I'm not dreaming, he said. This is where the problem lies. You smiled, disregarding yourself. Becker leaned forward. There was a rumor about Russians at that time. They will recapture Kiev and the wall will soon reverse. You remember it too. Whispered to the military camp. Hope is wrapped in the ink as the newspaper, half ruined, half false. There is always a time when the offensive is just around the corner. It's always a little longer. The war has turned, Becker said. It's just not what we thought. After that, no one spoke. Finally, you scout ahead minus just a quick reconnaissance. The forest leads to the fields surrounded by hedges. Typical cages are dense, tangled and move, slowly. Perfect defense. Retreat is terrifying. You notice some movement in the distance. The United States military 10, 15. It's hard to tell through the branches. They're lined up in a row, moving carefully but confidently. They are cleaning up this area. You crawl back to the others. Patrolling nearby. Let's hide. Becker nodded. Franz didn't raise his head. The patrol team passed within 50 meters. It's closed enough for them to joke around. One of them was whistling out of tune. You don't recognize it. It must be an American. Some casual and relaxed things. It makes you feel ill. They moved on. Time extends. The sun has risen. You take turns to sleep. Linus one watches and the other rests. You chew the hard bread in your ration and take a sip from the rust minus smelling kettle. The forest remains quiet. There are no planes. There is no mortar. It's just this slow and strange calmness. At dusk you move. Franz could hardly walk, so you took turns holding him up. Each step is slow. Every sound of the branches makes your heart beat. But the Americans didn't come back. Not yet. You hide in the shadows, under the branches, and crawl forward when necessary. You bypass a ruined barn, a smoking tank and a dead horse lying in a ditch. The smell was worse than what was seen. You won't stop. At midnight you were near from MiG-NY, or the remaining part. The village was plunged into darkness, burned down and abandoned. Several German soldiers work routed in the basement of a house without a roof. They don't even blink when you arrive. One of them provides water. The other shrugged his shoulders. There are no police. There are no orders, only those in grey are waiting for a war that has already begun. Use it against the wall. Baker is on one side and Franz is on the other. The night is quiet. It's too quiet. You know this won't last long. Somewhere, the next wave is forming. But right now, at this very moment, you are still breathing. This is remarkable. You won't sleep in from MiG-NY. It's not true. There was a smell of whetstones, oil and fear in the cellar. Find a place between a broken chair and a bag of spoiled onions. Curl up your legs, and then close your eyes. But every time you start rafting, something will drag you back minus distant gunshots. Someone coughing, the sound of boots stepping on the floor. The sounds of war move like the weather, always changing. There are 5 or 6 men around you, and none of them have left your workplace. That person was wearing a black jacket of an armored force. The other one is that the German Air Force has a badge, but you doubt whether it has flown. That was a pile of uniforms and dirt. No one talked much. You all hold different threads of the same sweater. Franz is sleeping, or perhaps he just passed out. His legs were tied tight and placed on a wooden board. He hasn't said anything since you entered the village. Check his pulse once. It's still there, still strong. That's enough. Becker is awakened by your side. He is cleaning the room. With the little oil he had left, he hung the gun at his waist, his hands in an orderly manner and his face expressionless. His shoulder was seeping out of the cloth again, but he didn't seem to notice. Perhaps he was just doing it to make me feel that it still had meaning. I heard their voices in Vileville, he said softly, not looking at you. They passed, pushed off the cliff. Some units surrendered, others were cut off from contact. You nodded reluctantly. You've guessed it too. It's only a matter of time before things collapse in this way. The draw failed, he continued. Once they take the main road, they act quickly. He didn't express your thoughts that road leads all the way here. Historians often debate how Americans went bankrupt. The lottery for Vileville passed. Some credit smokes, greens and suppression firepower. Others, however, pointed out pure luck minus the moment when a machine gun nest on the cliff broke down in the worst case. The truth? It depends on whom you ask. But deep down in your heart, you know that not defending is eternal minus you can't resist the sea, you can't resist time, and even less can you resist the enemy's unwillingness to stay where they should be. The armored soldier finally spoke. We must set off at dawn. Where? Becker asked. He shrugged his shoulders. South it might be Saint-Low. If the road is clear. If you muttered. This person doesn't argue. He just pulled a layer of skin off the bread from his coat and tore it in half. He ate very slowly, as if he were chewing thoughts rather than food. Outside, a dog barked and then stopped. The wind was rattling the window frame above. Becker leaned back a little. Do you still remember the scene when you shot with a rifle for the first time? You gave him a glance. Training Tem. The first week, he continued. They gave us the outlines on the paper. Let's imagine them as enemies. I can't do it. I always thought it looked like my uncle. You almost laughed. Before I realized it, I missed the ball 3 times. I have to stop imagining. Just shoot. You nod. I never thought I would miss those who delivered newspapers. The armored soldier giggled. They never fought back. No one laughed. Stand up and stretch your legs. The basement is very narrow, with the ceiling only shoulder height, but you have to move a bit. You climbed up the stairs slowly. The rifle loosened, the door was pushed open, and you could just see outside. From many looks like a ghost village. The house where the blinds were blown off. There is a Scheldt-Isle mark on the side of a church spire. The main road was quiet, but it was covered with ruts, footprints and boot prints from tanks. You can't see any movement. It's just smoke in the distance. Low and long minus lasting means that something is still burning. You walk outside for a moment just to feel the air. It's much colder than before. The dawn's faint light began to paint the clouds pink and silver. Take a deep breath. It smells like ashes, gunpowder and lilacs. Somehow, the flowers were still in full bloom, hugging one tightly, as if they had no idea what was going on. You scan the road again. Not yet. But their arrival. You can feel it from your spine. You go back to the cellar. We'll act as soon as it gets light. The others agreed without any objection. When the sun rose hills, you had already left. Franz leaned against you. Becker limped slightly as he walked, and the others scattered in front. It has not been formed. There is no command. It's just instinct. To the south and east, towards the remaining direction of Saint-Low-or. You heard the rumor that it still holds. The 3rd Paratrooper Division reassembled there. You don't know if this is true. It doesn't matter. This is one direction. You pass by burned-out trucks, trampled fields, boots and tank tracks. A half-broken sign still reads Luck MB. A few kilometers later, you saw a handcart overturned in the ditch, with the stolen items scattered behind it minus clothes, dolls, and a photo frame. You didn't stop to take a closer look. As you walk through the woods, birds scatter on both sides of the narrow alleys, with thick hedges forming natural walls. Beck kept staring at the ridge. So are you. This is an excellent place for an ambush. However, Americans have not yet reached that level. Not yet. Franz tripped. You catch him. He muttered something that needed water. Pass him your kettle. It's almost empty. You all share the rest. Then, just after noon, you arrived at a crossroads. You can see them. 2 numbers. American uniform. Perhaps not a patrol scout. They haven't met you yet. They were on the road. squatting beside a dilapidated cairns, scanning the area. You have descended. Others followed suit one after another. Becca moved forward a few inches, trying to get a better ball to watch. Timon Coban. There is no helmet. It might be in front of the home team. What should we do? The armored soldier asked. You weigh your options. Avoid them. Would you like to try going around in circles? But this road was the only one that could support Franz's weight. If you walk into the hedge, you lose your speed and time, and you are almost out of both now. Wait, you said. Americans changed their stance minus laughing at something. One of them pointed at a chicken in the ditch. Another person took out a candy stick. Your watch. It's not because of weakness. For humanity. You should go and have a look. You need to remember. Because if they find you, they will shoot. If they shoot, you fight back. Everything will start anew. But they didn't. 10 minutes later, they continued walking back, towards their own lines. Wait for another 5 minutes just in case. Then, move. Franz is dragging his feet now. His boots were soaked through. Becca finally helped him up and half-minus carried him across the road. There is no complaint. If not, just moving forward. Keep moving forward. You have passed another milestone St. Minus Low, 14 kilometers. It can also be said to be 100, but this is meaningful. When you arrived at the orchard, your boots were soaked through with mud and your socks felt like paper. Every step makes your feet feel uncomfortable. Your legs stopped hurting a few hours ago, but now they are trembling, as if they have forgotten how to support you. The others are no better. Franz's face looked pale under the dirt, and most of his weight was leaning against a dilapidated sidewalk stick. No one complains. Complaining requires energy. You found a shelter under the thick canopy of an apple tree near Colville. The flowers still hung on the branches, despite the roar of gunfire in the distance. This contradiction makes you hesitate. How could such a fragile thing survive for so long? Kneel on one knee and scan this area. The orchard spans a slight highland, surrounded by thick hedges and thorns that could block bullets and views. Somewhere passing by them is the way to St. Minus Low. Somewhere after that, the wall came to an end. Franz fell onto a tree and shrank back. Check his ankle again, minus it's swollen and painful. The wrapping paper can still hold up, but just barely. He has bitten his tongue for several kilometers. We should stop, he said. No one raised any objection. The orchard is very quiet. It's too quiet. Just think about it first. Then you hear a buzzing sound. It's not an engine or artillery fire, but bees. Distant, steady, gentle. They're everywhere in the trees and are functioning normally. It is both maddening and uncommon. You find an old ladder leaning against a tree trunk and climb to the height of the hedge wall, where you can just see through. On the other side, there is a field. Behind the field is a low farmhouse minus the stone walls. The SLAT roof and the chimney are all intact. No exercise. There are no flags. It might be empty. It might be a trap. You fall down. Let's stay here for a while. Recover, you said. Becca nodded. Franz did not respond. He closed his eyes and tilted his head towards the sun. You want him to sleep. You hope it's rest. Not something worse. Sit down, lean against a tree, and then get close to see it with your own eyes. Wait a moment, please. A gentle breeze blew, carrying flowers and fertilizer. Somewhere in the distance, a cow mooed alone and loudly. Then there was a voice. It's not yours. It's not Baker's. Franz. This is French. You open your eyes. A girl minus about 17 years old minus was standing at the edge of the orchard. She was wearing a light blue dress with the crumpled hem smeared with mud. She was holding a wicker basket, which was almost empty. Her gaze swept between you two, the NJ abandoned on the grass, Becca's uniform, and the blood-stained patch on Franz's leg. She doesn't run. Party Z, she said inferently. I'm leaving. Raise your hand and open your palm. We're not here to hurt anyone. Her expression didn't change. She repeated it. Party Z. He glanced at Becca. He shrugged his shoulders. It's not a warm welcome. Say it again, in a lower voice. We're leaving. Just taking a break. This is it. She looked at you carefully for a long time again. Then she threw the basket on the ground. It landed with a bang and rolled up. Inside 3 crushed apples, One hard apple followed by bread, and something wrapped in rags. Then she walked away. Just like this. Once gone, it will never return. You pick up the basket. There is a boiled potato and a piece of cheese in the rag. Divide it into 3 parts. No one said thank you, because none of you knew who to thank. But the food you eat, for the first time in a few days, you tasted something beyond fear and ashes. Some historians believe that the French common people in Normandy sympathized with the Germans more than what history books say. Others hold the opposite view. Minus every farmhouse hides a resistance fighter and every child is a spy. The truth? Perhaps somewhere in the middle, but you will remember that girl. It's not because she helped you, it's because she didn't report you. These wounds restored Franz's strengthened. He was just able to sit up straight. He blinked at the sun. How long do you think it will take them to get here? Becker wiped his hands on his trousers. Tonight. By tomorrow at the latest. He nodded. The way from Omaha seemed shorter than here. Now Americans have tanks, smoke screens and usable radios. The only thing that stands in their way is the terrain, the country of Pokeke. Of course, these hedges are a maze. But the maze couldn't stop the army. They just changed their route. He took another look at the map. This is a joke now crumpled up, stained and almost useless. But it still shows where the 352nd Regiment should regroup. It's not too far. The transition period has just passed. Your opinion? Let's go here. Franz moaned. This is difficult. Everything is tough. Becker murmured. However, you will still move. Because moving house can enable you to keep on living. There was no shooting. There's no concealment. Just exercise. The orchard vanished behind you. You follow the edge of a shallow stream, pass through more hedges, hide under vines, and go through nettles. The afternoon sun slanted through the leaves, dyeing the path golden. If machine guns weren't everywhere, it would be very peaceful here. Then you see the crater. Wide, fresh, black border. The smoke still rose gently from the middle. The most recent artillery attack. You crouched down and scanned the area. Around the explosion from men. German uniforms. Tear, scatter, wrong. Look away. Franz didn't. He just stared. It's not out of fear. Out of familiarity, he said. That might be us. You say nothing. You go around the crater and keep moving forward. Passing by it is a dirt road full of ruts, with trees on both sides. Becker stopped and raised one hand. There is a group of soldiers ahead. German. Perhaps a dozen. A pair of trucks were parked nearby. The axle of a car is broken. The other one is still running. That officer minus all thin, with red minor side waves as you approach. Were you from the 352nd Regiment? Yes, you replied. Where are your troops? You shook your head. Gone, he sighed. So are we. Let's head east. There is a word for the new line near Ville minus Bokich. Becker frowned. I know, but we can't stay here. Americans act quickly. This morning, Carvel. Perhaps we can reach Bay before dark. You exchange information. They give you a seat truck. Good Franz at the back and crawl beside him. Becker was sitting in the passenger seat. The engine was coughing vigorously under emitting black smoke. The road was rough and uneven, but there was no vibration. But it will move. You pass by abandoned tanks, burned carriages and shoes in the ditch. A wooden sign read T. R-E-V-I-E-R-E-S. Chardon tilted. Someone in the truck began to buzz and they sang in a low voice. You don't recognize it. It might have been before the war. Franz finally fell asleep. His chest rose and fell, slowly, unsteadily. You look at him not because you are worried, but also because you need something human to support yourself. The truck is still moving on. The war is changing. You can feel it. It's no longer a matter of defending the coast, or defend the shelter, or occupy a high ground. This concerns survival. The road ahead is still very long. The road across the RSMV I raise was almost entirely covered in dirt, with tire marks, boot prints, and traces left by the long dreading of retreat equipment. It wins its way through pastures and stone houses, most of which are now abandoned, with curtains torn and chickens wandering in the fields. A small house has a door swinging on a hinge. As you pass by, it rhythmically taps on the door frame, as if it were trying to recall something it once protected. The truck limped forward. You were bouncing behind your back. with a cam on your shoulder to prevent every rutting from hitting Franz. He was either unconscious or just asleep, if you were lucky. Sometimes his legs would twitch when the truck hit a stone. Becker stared at the road ahead, alert but silent. You want to know if he was at a crossroads, by a hedge, or counting what was left behind. The police driving seldom speak. He's from another battalion, maybe Battalion 726, or perhaps the remaining one. Now there are only 4 other people in this group. 2 of them don't seem to be old enough to shave yet. One of them kept adjusting the bandage on his hand, as if hoping that the wound would heal faster. The other one stared at the back of the truck, as if waiting for someone to call him home. If you ignore those craters, the scenery looks very peaceful. The undulating mountains, the green grass in summer, and the low minus flying birds. You pass by a dairy field and graze beside a burned tank IV. Its tower was blackened and distorted, and the cabin door opened, just like a mouth in a screen. Someone survived, Becker said calmly. You nod. Or you didn't run fast enough. No one responded. When you reach the next village minus Moss village minus, it will be evening. The sky turned bronze. The smoke trails stretched westward like long and low ribbons. You smell the bread. Fresh. Perhaps it will burn out. You can't tell any more. Everything smells like memories. The truck drove into a place that had once been a town square, a broken fountain, half a flag pile, and Hitler's posters peeling off the walls. There was a temporary checkpoint here. Not being a warrior is not real. Only those holding rifles and with tense eyes. Someone waved you over. The policeman driving the car nodded but didn't stop. Such a village can't on any longer, he murmured. There's no radio. There is no command. Just hope. You turned your body to the side and glanced back. A horse minus drawn carriage was crawling behind you minus a horse pulling a carriage fully loaded with bags, children and furniture. A lady is riding a horse with a chicken on her leg. The chicken looks very confused. The children are the same. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked again. The same tone, the same rhythm. Just like before. I followed you for several days without being noticed. 1 kilometer outside Morse. There is a village where a truck stutters. At 10. Stop, the officer cursed. You jumped down, your feet squeaking in the mud. He kicked the tire and then opened the hood. Steam billowed out. It's too hot, he muttered. Let's go. Take Franz off. He's awake now. But hardly. His gaze was dull, but he was aware. When you put him down, he gritted his teeth. Are there no more trucks, he asked. You shook your head. He didn't complain. The road forks. It extends eastward to Ville, a minus Bucket, and southward to St. minus Low. Becker knelt beside the road sign, brushing his teeth and wiping away the dirt with his sleeve. Someone carved a symbol on the wood minus to crossed lines forming a circle. Resistance? A mark? A joke? No one knows. You go east. You are walking slowly now when you can. The fields were once again replaced by forests. But this eternal cover became thinner. This group of people were very close together, their eyes scanning every ridge and every tree line. You passed another pile of debris and upside minus down German rock in a small stream, a motorcycle stuck between trees, and an ammunition box cracked and stripped clean. Becker once blew it very low. You turned around and saw a row of boots, neatly lined up along the fence, for pairs. Not a single person can be seen. Why would anyone do this? A young soldier asked. No one answered. Keep going. The dusk lasted for a long time. The clouds turned pale purple and then steel gray. When you reach a well minus lit farmhouse and look out of the basement window, it's almost dark. You knock on the door. No answer. Knock on the door again. Then Becker opened the door himself. There were only straw, a few crates and a pair of rusty farm tools in the room. Anyway, you still have to go to bed. Franz lay on the straw, his eyes closed. He muttered a few words about his sister's dog and then fell silent again. Use it by the window with the rifle on your lap. Becker, on the other hand, held the opposite view, with his eyes closed and not asleep. After a while, he said, I've been waiting for someone to tell us what to do. You nod. I've been looking forward to FLWO Bell showing up. Or it could be a command. But he slowed down his pace. This is where the problem lies, isn't it? War always tells you to do whatever you want. Hold the line, dig holes, and follow orders to shoot. There is no why now, no explanation. Just exercise. If you stop moving, you will fall behind. If you fall behind, you will disappear. Outside, stars are emerging one after another. You hear the squeaking of planes overhead. Slow, not a bomber. A means of transportation. Reduce the supply even more. Perhaps a man. Perhaps it's a flyer. You want to know if the Allied forces have already planned the push for tomorrow. Maybe. You know what they are thinking now. They occupied the ridge, the road and the railway track, and then moved again before the dust settled. They never sit quietly. The wind direction has changed. You hear a faint engine noise. Not closed. But it's not far. Eka sat up straight. Armored column, he whispered. Eight of you climbed to the edge and peered out of the window. The car lights flickered faintly on the horizon. Move from west to east, count to 5. 6, perhaps even more. Not happy, but stable. The voice of progress. Becca sighed. They passed. You nod. You can feel it in your chest minus not fear. Completely. It is inevitable. You lay on the straw staring at the wooden beam above. One is engraved with the first letter. Pemmican Chase 1933. It might have been a farm worker. Several years ago. You want to know if he survived the war. Close your eyes. You dreamed of a bridge made of helmets. You don't know which side they belong to. You wake up to the creaking sound of wood. Rather than at night minus. But there was something heavy stepping on the floor above you, making a sharp, tense groan. Your eyes opened immediately. Thacker was already awake, with his fingers on his lips. The others stirred quietly, just like animals sensing predators nearby. Franz raised his head and said nothing. You wait. These steps continue to be carried out slowly and carefully, no matter who was up there. He wasn't in a hurry. This is the disturbing part. A hurried intruder can handle accidents, momentum and chaos. But is that so? This is calm, control, dangerous. Acker drew his pistol and climbed the stairs. You follow behind, holding a rifle in your hand. The others were and minor shaped and spread out behind the overturned crates. Each of you held your breath, as if it were ammunition. The steps stopped. Then there was a knock on the door. It's not at the front door, on the floor. 3 times. Hey, pause. 3. You know this is a signal, although you don't know what it means. Becker is looking at you. You shrug your shoulders. Then came a deep voice. Comrades? French? Not loud. Be careful. You replied before thinking. Some soldiers said, best wishes. It's not a German battle. We are German soldiers. A person is injured. Not a battle. A silence. Then several cautious footsteps receded. The creaking sound of a hatch. It might be a trapdoor. After a while, the front door opened and closed. You and Becker hurry upstairs. The house is empty. There's no movement. Can you just smell the hot coffee? No. It's roasted grains. Perhaps a substitute. Someone has been here. Watch. There was a half-minus fold-in cup on the table. It's still steaming hot. Beside it, on a small piece of paper, it was scribbled in pencil the road to St. Minus Low is no longer yours. You stared at the note. Some historians debate how widespread this phenomenon was. The French resistance occurred in the first few hours of the Normandy landing. Some locals remained largely neutral, waiting for which side would win. Others persist in resisting, hiding everywhere in conspicuous places, silently guiding, sending signals, and destroying. After that, you no longer question it. Back downstairs, Franz was propped against the wall, his face pale but alert. Was it done by Americans? He asked. No, he said. Worse. People who understand the terrain. Ecker threw the note on the ground. Move out within an hour. There was no discussion. There is no breakfast. Just exercise. It's already warm. The clouds streaked across the sky like bruises. You silently passed through the tangled hedges along the muddy path that wound like veins. Each round is like a decision. Every feeling this might be the last decision. You cross a small bridge with a dried minus stream on it. Someone scribbled a Nazi cross on a stone pillar with truck and then crossed out the red, fresh ones with a thick pen. Angry. The information is clear. They are everywhere. Becker murmured. Not just Americans, but civilians. Ghost. He eyes in the window. The boots are in the bar. You pass by a field where there are scarecrows dressed in German army uniforms. It's not real. It's just a temporary uniform. a cardboard helmet and a toy rifle. Hey joke, or a warning. There is a burning smell in the air minus fertilizer, wood, oil. It's hard to say. You find a farmhouse near the top of the mountain and hide inside to rest. This place is empty. There is still breakfast on the table, a kettle for boiling water dry. Go and have a look at the basement. There's nothing. In the kitchen drawer, you found matches, a can of sardines and a photo. A man wearing a beret is holding a child. This photo has been folded and unfolded many times. There was a stain on that man's face, as if someone had tried to wipe away his mark with their thumb. Franz took a few bites of the bread and immediately curled up again. You look out of the window. The tree bends in the wind, but nothing else moves. Then, in the distance, an engine started. Low, heavy. Becker pulled you aside. We should part ways. You frowned. Why? If they catch us, we'll be prisoners. If I were alone, perhaps I could get through it, or you might be shot dead alone in the ditch. He shrugged his shoulders. It's more likely than this. Think about it. His madness is justified. Franz won't go far. This is clear. His complexion turned even worse. His breathing was very shallow. He wasn't dying minus, not yet minus, but he had no choice. You draw a line on the map. Let's meet here. The Church of Com or Anne. If we part ways. Eka nodded. Then he left. Just like this. You don't like it. But you can understand. That night, you slept beside the stove. Franz muttered to himself in his sleep minus about a river and his mother's cat. You stared at it without blinking an eye. Every gust of wind is like the sound of boots. Each creaking sound was like the bolt of a rifle sliding into place. In the morning, people in the village wake up earlier than you. You hear the bell first. It's not the church bell, but the bicycle bell. Look out through the blinds at them for cyclists in cocky clothes, lazily riding along the road. The Boy Scouts of America helmet. The rifle is hung. They rode on horses, as if they knew the territory had been cleared. You push yourself back into the shadow. They kept passing by, but the message conveyed was very clear. This village was no longer lagging behind the front line. This is the front. Wake up, Franz, and help him up. He's almost unconscious now. You put his arm on your shoulder and started walking again. You left the farmhouse without looking back. You walk eastward, through the broken fence, the shattered helmet, and the cafeteria half minus buried in the mud. At the crossroads, you will find a sign nailed to a tree that reads the internet. Germans are prohibited. Below it is another sign, hurriedly written in chalk. Welcome to Free France. The handwriting is uneven. It might have been done in a hurry. Perhaps it's the same person who left a note in the farmhouse. You lower your head and keep moving forward. The road has become quiet. There are no more fleets. There are no more gunshots. A crew, and the wind. At some point, you realize that Franz has stopped breathing. Stop. Put him by the roadside. His eyes were half open, peaceful. There is no last gasp. There were no silent last words. It's just silence. You sat beside him for a long time, sufficient time for the sun to move. It is sufficient to keep the war going. You left the bread bag on his belt. The medal he never wanted was still pinned under his collar. You can't bury him. You just need to cover his face. Take a rag and keep walking. You are walking alone now. There are no orders any unit. There is no destination you believe in. Only the map. Becker made a mark, circling the name Com or Anne with a stained pencil, as if it had some meaning. Without the heavy burden of Franz, you feel that the world is much broader. Every step is light but not free. You feel guilty now, heavy. It settles deep in the sole of the shoe. You pass a row of hedges that look exactly the same as they did 2 days ago. Then, for a moment, you're not sure if you're moving forward or just going around in circles. This is how Normandy is played. Every road looks like the one you just escaped from. Every alley gave off the smell of cinder and damp soil, the reward of the chirping of birds. Of course, what was done? The birds, he don't care what uniform you wear. They have already sung about the gunfire. They will also live longer than you. You drink the bridge from the moss-covered brook. The water was so cold that it numbed your chin. You splashed some on your face. Looking back at you is a face full of dirt, red eyes and flat hair to one side. You look like a child playing a war game in the woods. A child who has forgotten how to get home. A voice interrupted your train of thought minus the rustling sound ahead. You crouched down and crawled forward to the edge of the embankment. To numbers. German. They moved carefully, holding rifles. The posture you recognize. Half-minus strained. Paranoia. Despair. Whistle. Old man's signal. Two shortened, one long. They froze. Then he whistled back correct. You slowly stood up and stretched out your hands. Their method. One possibility is 20. The other one seems to be at most 16 years old. His helmet is too big. His rifle was not loaded. You will notice this immediately. They stopped a few feet away. And you? Ask a bigger question. You nod. He pointed in the direction from which you came. We lost the Bayes troops nearby. Since then, we have been avoiding patrols. You ask them if they have heard anything. Order. Unit reorganization. Anything. He shook his head. There is nothing or nothing. Our ghosts. Finally, the boy beside him spoke. Have we surrendered? This issue remains unresolved. The older ones did not answer. You don't know either. On the contrary, you said, I'm going to call Maolo in. He nodded as if it were a very nice place. Now there are 3 of you. It's not a unit. It's just distance. You move quietly and seldom speak. You eat what you eat minus mostly stolen fruits. Chocolate bars that someone dropped in the ditch. The smaller one found an American cafeteria, but was unwilling to shake it to see if there was anything inside. When you reach the next village, it has already turned into ruins. No bombing. Abandoned. The window is open. The clothes haven't been washed yet. The baby carriage overturned on the street. There was a note on the door of one of the houses minus I'm going to Paris. Good luck to you. He slept in the barn that night. The straw is very soft and the air is very warm. Listen to the sound of the wind and wonder how many Germans are doing the same thing now. Hide wait. Pretend that the war is still going on. At dawn, you woke up to find that the little boy was gone. The older ones cursed and stomped their feet across the barn. Perhaps he turned himself in, you said. Perhaps he took my ammunition, he replied. He didn't. You will find the bullet still there. But his ethnic group vanished. And chocolate bars. Don't mention this matter anymore. At noon, you finally arrived in Calm or Anne. It's not many minus just a group of houses around the church on the top of the mountain. The old house stands tall, its roof like a tired sentry. There is smoke in the distance, but not nearby. You don't know if this is a good thing. You find the church door open. The benches were all empty, but the candles on the altar were still burning. Someone has been here recently. There is a smell of wax and mold in the air. You are sitting in the back seat. Another soldier leaned against the wall, looking at the door. Hours passed. Then Becker came in. You stood up before you even realized it. He looks thinner, tired, but alive. His bandage isn't in. He was carrying a civilian backpack instead of a toolkit. He nodded. There is no smile. Another soldier didn't move. Just watch quietly. Becker sat beside you, exhaling slowly. For he saw them taking Saint minus loan. Half-minus tracked vehicle. Infantry. Jeep. They walk as if they were the masters of this place. Now there is, you replied. He hands you a hand-minus drawn map on paper with arrows marked on it. A reserve force is being organized near Weir. A mixed unit, the Lyle tank, scattered soldiers of the 352nd Regiment, and some SS soldiers. They are trying to restructure. Who is responsible? Beck said with a smile. Nobody. Everyone. You stared at the altar, your eyes blank. We can go there, he said, or we could disappear. You know what he means. Take off the uniform, burn the documents. Keep walking east until no one cares who you are. Let the war pass like the storm you slept in. Franz? He asked. You shook your head. He nodded again, slowing down a little. That's all. You left that night. It's still the 3 of you minus if you count the silence. The road to Ville is longer than it seems. Hide in the woods whenever you have the chance. Squatting across the field. Scan every horizon. You will see any things on the road, American supply piles, French flags fluttering on rooftops, and prisoners marching in formation, with their hands raised high and expressionless faces. Some waves, some curses, most people just walk. Once, you passed by a sign written in English, landmines are cleared only here. At your own risk, you go around it. The soldier with you found a burned minus out American Jeep. Turn it over to see what's underneath. A shovel, a bottle of Coke, a minus cola. He put the bottle in his pocket. Becker discovered an abandoned farmhouse. He scribbled a sentence on the wall with charcoal. I don't like you. Named KMZ. You are LTE1GTCK. We are here. No one came back. No one has any objection to this. That night, he slept in an old church with a broken bell. In the morning, he got up and continued walking, because what else can be done? You are marching under the burning clouds. The sky today is very strange, minus slow, orange, blurry and accompanied by the smoke and dust from more than 10 unseen fires. Somewhere in the northeast, smoke billowed along the outline of a destroyed fuel depot or an unfortunate convoy, slowly spiraling upwards. Don't look for too long. The shapes in the sky began to look like things they weren't, trees, helmets, and the silhouette of friends sitting up. You blinked hard and kept walking. The road to IIGN-Y has been cut off. It was not with bombs minus, although they left traces minus, but the pressure of people, vehicles and hooves that crushed it into dust. You spread signs of collapse. Overturned KLTE1GT Bill wagon was still smoking. Several boxes of rations were blown up. A car was destroyed. A motorcycle lost two wheels and leaned against the fence. Like a drunkard who had given up halfway, Eka maintained a steady pace and took a few steps ahead. His new bandage was tighter and his limping was more obvious. Don't ask him how he got the scarf. He didn't tell this story voluntarily. The third soldier minus he told you yesterday that his name is KRLT, so necked gel minus dropped a cigarette into the ditch. He talks too much. A wave of tension welled up all over him. I should have been in Paris, he said for the third time. They changed the order at the last minute. It is said that we are needed near Cannes, that the train never arrived. Entire train derailed near Rouen. He nodded but got no response. Then they assigned me to be on duty at the checkpoint. Can you imagine? For 4 months, I've been looking up documents and searching for potato cuts. Suddenly, I showed up, dodging on a plane and eating cold beans from my helmet. It could be even worse, Becker murmured. Really? How about it? Becker stopped and pointed. Passing the next ridge, about a kilometer away, an entire convoy was trapped. German trucks, ambulances, and even carriages. He don't know why they stopped, but no one was moving. From here, they look like a 3-dimensional model minus a scene frozen in time, and you will find out where the problem lies. The leading car was hit. It's hard to achieve. The windshield is a spider web. The tire is like a melted tree stump. At the place where the engine was turned off, the road surface was covered with black stripes. Discarded helmets and equipment were tossed around like leaves. They are on the same path. And so are we, Becker said calmly. You crouched down and raised your binoculars, which you had stolen from a fallen officer a few days ago. One side of the glass cracked on the other. You adjust until the image is cleared. There are about 30 people there. Some were crowded at the back of the vehicle. The others were sitting by the roadside, holding their heads with both hands. No one is digging. No one guards the flanks. They look very tired. Shall we join them? Kruger asked. He thought for a while. No, let's go around. Why? They might have something to eat. They're stuck. The meaning of stuck is to see. Seen indicates being shelled. Or even worse, pairs of soldiers fired by those Americans buzzed along the road, with angry teeth painted on their noses, smooth and silver. You have witnessed their attacks on stationary targets. The truck turned into a coffin. The horse turned into smoke. Becker agreed. You have no choice but to take a shortcut and cross the field. A detour will lead you into a marsh dotted with irrigation ditches and buzzing insects. The reeds rise up to your chest, swaying in the wind, just like the secret whispers of a choir. KRLT so negged GE complained about the mud. Becker told him to shut up. You focus on keeping your boots from disappearing into the mud. Then, a voice. It's not an explosion. Music. You freeze. Somewhere on the next highland. The radio rang. American. Just a lazy trumpet is at ease in the swaying rhythm. You don't know this song, but it has a casual and relaxed feeling minus arrogance. Smoking and late at night. It doesn't belong here. It's here. This is why it hits so hard. Becker smiles. It's just almost. They brought their soundtrack. You suggested that the others keep a low profile and climb up the smoke. In the distance is a farmhouse. Not ruined minus occupied. The American Jeep is parked in front. Helmets were piled up near the oil well. The trees are hung with laundry ropes, dotted with undershirts and cocky socks. A soldier was leaning bare minus chested against the door smoking. Another person is washing his face in a tin basin. The radio leaned against the porch, on the crate, playing for anyone and everyone. KRLT so negged, pull up your sleeve. Let's go around it. You nod, but a part of you is wondering. It's not for danger, for normal purposes. They turned the front line into a picnic spot. He cut it very wide, completely avoiding the house. Cross another field, pass a broken windmill, and leap over a fence whose noise is so loud that it makes your heart race. But no one followed. No one noticed. You disappeared into the hedges and trenches again. By sunset, your legs hardly respond to the instructions. Your thighs burn every time you lean. Your feet feel as if they belong to someone else. You've been dragging them all day. KRLT Sonegjel's complaints had gradually faded away and turned into muttering to himself. Even Baker stopped looking at the map every few minutes. This day has worn you all out. Finally, just as the dusk turned the trees into silhouettes, you saw a beam of light. It's not popular. Electrical. A barn is sandwiched between two small hills. Its windows glowed slightly, not flashing. Perhaps it's a generator, or stolen power. Approach carefully and lower the gun. There are 6 people inside. Sherman, or close enough. A mixed unit minus higher, armed SS, and a person wearing a German Air Force overcoat. They are eating canned food and whispering to each other. When you step into the light, half of the people reach for their weapons. Then pause. Among them, there is one person, wearing the stripes of a sergeant and an iron cross, nodding at you. Join us, he said simply. So you know. They share the stew from a sunken pot. It's greasy and not hot. But you didn't ask what was inside. The food you eat. The water you drank has a faint oily smell. Use it on the crate and listen. The soldiers talked about a way out. The lines formed east of Ville. It was rumored that Rommel himself had returned to Normandy, angrily shouting barefoot at the generals. A man claimed that he saw him near Caen, getting out of an employee car without boots on. Another person swore that Rommel was dead, but they just pretended he was still alive to boost morale. Historians are still questioning exactly where Rommel was on June 6. He has been in Germany for a few days earlier minus on his wife's birthday. But the legend of his return soon spread, half true, half folk tale. Some people said that he ran back in disbelief. Others claimed that he had already known he was lost. You want to know which version is worse? KRLT Sonegdjel asked what the plan was. The police officer shrugged. No plan, just exercise. We will see that he is still alive tomorrow morning. The room became quiet. Someone lit a cigarette. You lean against the wall, close your eyes, and listen to the low voices and the occasional sound of scraping the spoon in the tin bowl. For the first time in a few days, you have felt a sense of almost stillness. Not peaceful, but it's peaceful. It won't last long. But tonight, that's enough. You were awakened by footsteps. Soft, intentional. You need to learn to recognize those people who don't want to be heard during the war. You found the rifle before your eyes even opened. You lay still, breathing shallowly, trying to count how many people there were. 1, 2. When you open your eyes, it's just a small piece. The barn was still pitch minus dark, with faint light streaming in through the cracks in the roof. The others were either asleep or pretending to be asleep. Hecker is standing beside you. You know he heard it too. Another step. Then came the creaking of the barn door. KRLT Sonegdjel was already half a kite, but the blanket was still wrapped around his legs. A figure walked in, unarmed, civilian. One by one, boys under the age of 15 carried buckets in one hand and lanterns in the other. He froze when he saw the rifle, the boots and the helmet. You all froze as well. He said nothing. Then it was the person from last night, that police officer, who stepped forward with a cross. He put down his weapon. Water? He nodded at the bucket and asked. The boy nodded tightly, put down his gun, and then slowly stepped back, his eyes fixed on you all the time. For a moment, No one spoke. Finally, the police officer turned to you. The locals know we are here. That would be bad. You nod. There is no other conclusion. We'll set off in an hour, he said. Eckermunden rolled up. Where? The sergeant pointed to the south. The country of Poke-Oki. We'll cross the river tonight. Then we joined the remaining lest Anks, near St. Martin. If they were still here. If, Becker responded. You eat very quickly minus hard biscuits and a few spoons of beans. The water is clean and cold, drawn out of the well. Use it to wash and then pour a little onto your neck. Shock has restored half of your vitality. Outside, dawn is slowly approaching. The fog stuck to the trees. Everything was immersed in silence, as if the entire earth was holding its breath. You leave the barn in 2s and 3s. The sergeant leads the way. The forest has swallowed you up again. You speed through the hedges, following the ancient goat path and the ruts of the carriage, just like the veins on the hillside. This group of people were very quiet minus 10 people. Perhaps 12 now. Although no one was counting loudly. What's the point? Anyway, you will lose someone before noon. There is a smell of wet grass and diesel in the air, somewhere in the distance. An engine crackled and then went out. A tractor might. Or there's something pretending to be. KRLT so necked GE moved closer to you and spoke, in a low voice. My uncle participated in World War I, he said. Say that the mud of France will never leave your boots. He looked down. It's still true. Ecker gave him a sideline glance. There are no wild horses on your uncle's head. KRLT so necked GE smiled. But the smile was brief and bitter. He also doesn't have a limited supply of coffee. Swings and circular islands. You climbed up a small hill and saw it. On the way, a cracked asphalt strip on a single -lane road through the hedge is now quiet. But everywhere there are traces of activity -ire marks, crushed cigarette packs, and cartridge cases shining in the dust. The sergeant raised his fist. Everyone stopped. Across the road is a farmhouse. Next to it is the half-course track of the United States. Stop engine. There is no obvious movement. Your stomach is knotted. Hecker whispered. Boy Scouts. Leading, the sergeant signaled to people standing sideways. One is waiting behind. You crouched very low and slowly approached the edge of the forest line, passing through the tall grass. You see two Americans not wearing helmets, leaning against the wall of a farmhouse. One is holding a map. Another one is drunk from the cafeteria. They relax. Too relaxed. You know this trick. This posture. These are all the advanced elements, perhaps to hold the intersection and wait for other teams to arrive. This means that the time is very short. That is to say, you have to move. But someone is twitching behind you. A boot broke a branch. One of the Americans raised his head. Time freezes. Then, motion. Shout and scream. Rifle. The sergeant fired first. A clean shot. An American has fallen. You plunged headlong into the ditch, your shoulders crashing into the damp ground. Bullets buzzed overhead, pounding against tree bark and leaves. Someone is screaming at you from behind. You launched to controlled bursts. Nothing special. As time went by, the fog grew thicker and thicker, with the stench of gunpowder and trampled grass. Action. Becker shouted. Across the road, you were in a fluster, your boots slipping in the mud, and you were running fast on the asphalt in the open space. The heat from the bullet scratched your left arm. It's not a wound, just a reminder. You hid behind a rusty carriage and reloaded it. The exchange of fire didn't last long. 2 minutes, perhaps 3. U.S. troops retreated to the farmhouses. He heard them calling the coordinates by radio. Not good. Hecker shouted again. They're calling for support. The sergeant gave the signal to retreat not to retreat along the entire line, but to the maze of hedges where tanks couldn't keep up and planes couldn't be seen. You catch KRLT so Neckgel's collar pulled him out of the ditch. He was trembling and his eyes were wide open. Slap him once. Move. His movements. You ran away. Behind you, you heard the roar of the engine. Perhaps a truck. Bore armor. In the hedge, you reassembled. A person fell down. Perhaps 2. You don't know. You have too much difficulty breathing to think. The sergeant didn't shout. No curse. He merely adjusted his helmet and said, "We won't go south anymore." And then, east. Sure, always east. just like water finding its lowest point. You've been walking for hours on edge raw. Every sound is a threat. Once, Becca stopped you and pointed at the top. Above our heads were a group of American planes flying at low altitudes. You hid in the woods, but they didn't come to see you. They continued walking in, head to the front line, towards the future where you were once one of them. Keep going. The sun has set. The shadow has grown longer. In the evening you reached a dilapidated mill by the river. The water is shallow, but very fast. Cold, you drink alcohol. Take off your boots and soak your feet. Happiness. Then Becca hands you something. A torn piece of cloth. Civilian clothes. It was found in the barn. Just keep staring. He didn't say this word. You don't know either, but you all know what this means. Disguise. Missing. Disband. I'm not wearing this. KRLT so next G, he said provocatively. Becca shrugged his shoulders. It's up to you. You put the fabric on your lap for a long time. Then fold it up. Then fold it again. You don't wear it. Not yet. But you won't throw it away either. At dawn, the fog began to thicken enough to wipe out the entire world. When you woke up, you were cold all over, curled up under a tree, with only one boot, often the gun in front of your chest. Others stir slowly. No one spoke. No one wants to break the strange blanket of silence hanging in the air. The fog spread through the bushes, turning the hedges into white walls and scarves. Every sound turned into a dull, whispering silence. It's this kind of weather that makes you unsure if you are the last one still alive. Eka got up first. He fastened his civilian shirt. He found it on his waist yesterday, but he hadn't put it on. You don't know either. Not yet. At different times, you are still holding a rifle. This is a bottom line. Once you cross it, you'll take off your uniform and have no way back. KRLT so next GE is coughing behind you. The sound was not loud, but it cut through the silence like a bullet. You calm him down with your eyes. He glared at me. The police officer from the previous day is missing. Vanished at some point during the night. His bag was still lying by the river, half sipped. He can't find the note, the footprints, or any sign of struggle. Just not. Another subtraction. Deserter? Kruger asked. Perhaps, Becca said. Just think about it. It's more likely that he will go to find someone, or offer something. Or perhaps he decided not to take ghosts through the forest anymore. Or that's it. Then it's none of your business. Pack up, reload, and then move on. The fog followed closely behind. By noon, you no longer try to navigate in a straight line. This map is of no value now. Where there were no roads, and those that should have been crossed vanished into the marsh. No matter what, you stay in the bushes, always hiding nearby and always listening. Becca muttered that the matter about Bot, I see, had become a curse. A place specifically used for trapping men. You were beginning to believe him. Normandy doesn't kill in open spaces minus it kills in corners. Then, you heard boots. It's not yours. You'll fall down right away. Crossing the next ridge, there was movement. At first it was a shadow. Then the data. Not American. German. You raised the rifle halfway. Not sure. The Becker tents is right beside you. KRLT so next GER, you said finally. They came into full view. There are dozens. Dirty, limping, scratched, wide minus open eyes. Some people carry rifles. Don't bring anything else. Ammon held a piece of bread tightly against his chest, as if it were sacred. They won't notice you at first. Then one of them knew. He shouted loudly minus stern and swift. A silent alarm. The front of the queue froze. Some improvement hands. The others were holding weapons. You walked out slowly, raising your arms halfway up. We are the German Wehrmacht, you said. We're lost. Tension is like a pulling wire. Then there was one of them minus an elderly soldier, wearing an officer's cap and his belt minus wave. Us too. They asked you to join the column. You learn their story from the fragments. Retreat from Common. Pushed out by armor. Airstrike. Guerrilla fighter. Friendly artillery fire. A fragmented chain of command. One person said that his troops were ordered to fight back, but before they reached the edge of the town, the road had already caught fire. Another one is said to have seen Rommel standing on the reach that morning, like a man waiting for God. Rommel? Becker asked. Barefoot. The man shrugged his shoulders. He looks very angry. At least, you believe this. Some scholars are still debating whether Rommel contributed or hindered Germany's response to the chaos following the Normandy landing. His absence at landing is well documented. His return minus quick, angering to late minus as part of the myth and part of the military tragedy. It depends on who you ask. He either wants to save it, defend it, or witness its ultimate collapse. Now he is also a ghost. You march with the team for several hours, crossing low ridges, passing through farmlands where tractors have been abandoned and cows are wandering in areas without fences. You can see more signs of the war's transformation. The US military's field rations are scattered in the ditches. There are no fragments in the new craters. And once a single shoe print doesn't even match yours. At sunset, the pillar stopped near a damaged chapel. A decision was made. Some people hope to keep moving forward. The others want to hide here and wait for the team to form again. You and Becker and Calty so necked. Let's both step aside. Becker lowered his voice. We shouldn't stay. I know, you said. There are too many people. There is no discipline, there's no direction. This is a target yet to be painted. He is right. You two are apart again minus now. There are only the three of you. The last three. Walk southeast. The map shows that there is a fork in the road ahead, near Estrie. This is the place to retreat. The troops should have regrouped several days ago. Perhaps there is still something left. Perhaps not. No matter which way it is, its direction, objective, even if it is virtual, you walk faster now, partly because the terrain has flattened and partly because you no longer care whether others see you or not. Ahead is no longer a line but a cloud. Change, bloodshed, and unpredictability. At dusk, you hear the bell ringing. It's not the church bells. Both sides. You climbed to the top of the mountain and saw them. A dozen cattle were winding along a dirt road, unattended. One of them was still wearing a helmet from its corner. You have no idea what this means. You camped in a dried minus-up ditch. The stars are very bright tonight. The air is dry and surprisingly quiet. It feels like a pause movement in the middle, breathing before the next chapter begins. Becker finally spoke up. We can't go to Ville. You say nothing. KRLT Sonek Gel sat there with his back to a tree, fiddling with the harmonica he couldn't play. After gasping for a few seconds, he stopped. My fingers have no sensation. Becker leaned back a little. That's not frostbite. That's fear. You lie down and look up through the branches. You thought of Franz again. He always tied the spoon to the belt loop like that. Every time he finished his ration, he would offer the last bite of the offering to someone else. You remember his laughter minus rare, gasping genuine. You want to know who still remembers you. Finally the fog returned. It's always like this. You reach bay at the nearby crossroads before sunrise. A broken oil tanker split the road in two, and its skeleton curled up on itself like a dead insect. Glass shards creaked beneath your feet as you walked through. The road signs were charred, but still clearly distinguishable. Miners Bay was on one side, come on the other, and just keep going straight ahead and you'll reach Tillium Celis. Your goal is not any of them. Your goal is a piece of land between two places. In some respects, the Allied forces might not have, and the German forces might have already forgotten quiet places. Make a deep impression. Safety no longer exists. The fields here are empty minus there are no livestock, no tractors, not even birds. Only the grass swaying in the wind and the smell of diesel were baked into the earth. You pass by a row of trees that have been blackened by the recent big fire. One of them was still faintly emitting smoke. Kruger is now walking in front of you. His boots drag a little every hour, and the harmonica is tied to his backpack like a burden. He doesn't play anymore. You haven't seen a soldier for 2 days. Not German, not American. Only the smoked rails on the horizon and the distant engine sounds are always too far away to chase or escape from. Hacker quieted down again. He walked with his rifle hanging over his shoulder, and the civilian backpack bounced at his buttocks. Both of you have stuffed the dog tags deep into your shirts. You wouldn't think it would be helpful, but it feels a bit odd. The barrier between you and the things to come. You climbed to the top of a small hill and saw it a village, or the remnants of the village. Several stone houses are clustered around the square. The spire of a church is half missing. Laundry was quayed up behind the crumbling bakery, but there was nobody. Not yet. You scan the roof. There's nothing. There was no gleaming sight. No silhouette of a rifle. He signaled to the others and began to land. When they reached the halfway up the mountain, Becca whispered, "Did you smell it?" "What you did? Something familiar. Something sweet and sour." "So this village has been cleaned recently. When you go in, it's like walking into a set that has been forgotten to be dismantled." A radio was placed on the windowsill, still warm. A pot of water is boiling over the fire, but no one is taking care of it. There's food here, bed chair, however, it is empty. You pass by a school where today's date is still written on the blackboard. "How are you today?" You wink at it. "Someone came here this morning." You hid in the church, something on its left, curled up behind a broken stool. At KRLT Negged while Joel was digging, Becca scanned the windows and rummaged through the cabinets for something to eat. He found 2 cans of fish and a crust of bread, divided into 3 parts. "It's too quiet," Becca complained. "They left for a reason." "Why?" KRLT Negged G asked, his mouth stuffed with things. "It's the same reason why we keep moving forward." He is right. You won't stay for long. The disguise of civilians is no longer disguise. This is your only uniform now. You throw that grey corset behind the altar, fold it once, and then leave it and place it on the chair like a coat at a banquet. It feels like betrayal, but you can't take it back. Beck is looking at you. Then remove his as well. KRLT Negged hesitated for a moment, then shrugged his shoulders and did as he was told. "There are 3 ghosts now." You quietly left the village, taking along the path between 2 rows of trees. "The dust beneath my feet is very soft. Your boots have very clean marks." You began to walk on the grass. Around noon, the wind direction changed. Then you heard it. The low grunting sound of the tank. More than one. Becca stopped halfway. You all fell down and knelt down, scanning the fields. Then you see them, not tanks, not Tiger Sherman. 4, perhaps 5, rumbled along the ground for a kilometer. American infantrymen followed them casually with rifles slapping their backs, their helmets tilted backward, and some Worcester smoking. It looked very relaxed, confident. It's just like a war that has ended, but no one told you. You don't move, the tank won't stop. The columns flow like rivers. Quan, making a lot of noise, didn't notice the stones on the road. When they disappear, for the first time in a few minutes since you exhaled, they are pushing their way past us, KRLT Negged said in a low voice. "They didn't even see us." "No," Becca said. "They don't care at all. This is even worse. You're moving again. Now the land is beginning to change. Fewer hedges, more open terrain. The fields are being cultivated, but there is no one around. You pass by a dead horse carriage whose harness is still pulled tight. 8 child's shoes were lying on the road beside it. You won't stop. Near a forest, you spot an American glider that has been shot down, split and clear the middle. The wings are missing. The frame is charred. Inside helmet, backpack, a box marked with medical supplies. You are holding a bandage and a can of biscuits. Hacker discovered diodine. KRLT Negged. There is a folding knife in Gel's pocket. The glider was filled with the smell of panic. I like sweating canvas and other things you don't want to identify. Leave quickly. At dusk, you'll find a barn roof and there is a well nearby. You don't need to make a fire. You don't speak. You just sat in the shadow, chewing dry bread and waiting minus an order, a voice, a reason. Acker finally broke the silence. "If we get caught, what should we say?" Kruger shrugged his shoulders. "Just say we were conscripted into the army. They said we were deserters. Say we didn't shoot at anyone. You all know that none of this matters. You all know that there is no clean version of this story. Some historians believe that by late June 1944, many soldiers of the Wehrmacht had gone insane. Morale has collapsed. The order is ambiguous. Some simple stops to fight. Others, out of habit, continued to move forward. No one reached an agreement on exactly how many people surrendered, or how many people fell into the hands of the Allied forces out of desperation. You understand now. You lie on the hay, with your rifle beside you. You are not going to fight, but to remember, you were once a soldier. That time, you had a name, a roster, a shop with a number and a commander who knew you. Now, you are nothing. This is almost a relief. You slept very lightly. In the morning, there was a sound outside. English. Laughter. gravel boots. You lie still and listen. Then, Becker whispered, "They're not looking for us." You climb to the edge of the barn and look out through the slats. For Americans, walking on the road, smiled. Throw a stone into the ditch. Another point looks at something on the map. They don't inspect the barn. They didn't even take a look. They passed like the wind. In this way, you realize they have already won. You have already put the war behind you. The next day, you didn't move at all. It's not far off anyway. You spent the whole morning behind the barn, looking through the slats at the empty road as Becca boiled water from the well in a dented tin can. You keep the rifle beside you, even though you haven't held it properly for several days. It doesn't feel like a weapon anymore, more like the memories you've always wanted to forget. KRLT Necked Gel was sitting in the corner, polishing origami. He found a knife in the glider. He is not very good at this. The blade has been slipping. Finally he stopped, put it in his pocket and stared at the floor. "I think we're lagging behind in the queue now," he whispered. "Maybe," Becker replied without raising his head. "Then why are we still hiding?" This issue remains unresolved. This is not just about tactics. This is about the purpose. The identity. Does this uniform mean anything? Everything is now folded under a pile of hay, soaked through with dust, sweat and indecision. Becker didn't reply. He just poured hot water over the remaining cookies and then suggested that you take one. You accepted it without saying a word. After that, walk around the barn. Take a slow detour and be careful to avoid the road. In some places, the grass is very tall with only rabbit footprints and occasional hoof prints. You can see nothing minus no soldiers, no guerrillas, no civilians, only fences, trees in the sky. This is the quietest war's own you know. By around 3 p.m. KRLT Necked Gel noticed smoke in the distance. Thin and fair minus skinned, not growing fast enough to become a cannon. Perhaps it's the fire used for cooking. Perhaps someone is just burning garbage. You all stared at it for a long time as if waiting for it to tell you something. "It might be German," KRLT Necked Gel said. "It might be an American," you replied. Becker just nodded. "It could be anyone. You don't need to investigate. You wouldn't want to know." In the evening, dark clouds rolled in, heavy, low and grey. The three of you sat on the steps in the barn, the gentle breeze caressing your shoulders, sharing the last bit of canned fish. The air smells like the approaching rain in the distant earth. No one will say what you are thinking. No one needs it. This might just be it. Finally, unremarkable. Not a hero. It's just a slow fading away in a place where no one will write. There is no battle. There was no surrender. There is no last minus-ditch effort. Just waiting. Perhaps it is the most understanding a soldier could ask for. This night is colder than yesterday. You slept very lightly again. After midnight, you were woken up by the sounds outside. Not boots. There is no engine. A dog, barking, distant but enduring. You stand up holding a rifle in your hand and step outside. The stars vanished, and the world was shrouded in blue and grey shadows. The dog barked again minus this time even closer. Then stop. You wait. There's nothing. You go back into the room. Becker is now awake and sitting against the wall. He glanced at you but didn't ask. KRLT Necked Gel muttered to himself in his sleep and turned over. "Lie down. This time, you won't dream any more. Now, let's take it slow. You're still here, curled up in bed, or on your sofa, or simply lying on the dark floor with your phone face down beside you in that long march in Normandy. You did it." The barn was quiet again. The sky outside is softened by the morning mist. The road you crossed minus once a dense path filled with tanks. Boots and commands minus is now quiet. Only a ribbon of sand and memory entwined around the forgotten fields of the past. Perhaps you are still holding that imagined rifle. Perhaps you are already ready to let go. Because sometimes the battle is not about bullets and boundaries, but what is left when silence returns. You have done your best to carry out the command, the boots you wore, the names you remember and the names you forgot. Even if the map has changed and the reasons have become blurred, you still keep going. This is valuable. So now, take a deep breath. Let the war fade away and return to the woods and hedges. Make the problem milder. The uniform has dissolved. Let the mist once again envelop the fields. You are no longer a soldier. You are just you. It's time to rest. Thank you for listening, history enthusiast. I will soon see you walk past again, long and slow. But what about now? Close your eyes. I fell asleep drowsily. You go home.